Alright, so before we get started, we need to understand why we'd want to use the new input system over the old input system. And one main reason is that it is much easier to add in multiple platform support with the new input system. The new input system makes it much easier for controller support. All you have to do is just go at the click of a button, and yeah, you're good to go. Another reason why you want to use the new input system over the old input system is because it is event based and it does not run every frame checking for your button input. So basically it's much more performant. Alright, so understanding these things, we can now get into using the new input system. So here I'm already in a project that has the input system installed, but in order for you to install it, you just go to Packages, Unity Registry, and you just search up input, put that in, and you should see the new input system. And once you install it, it's going to prompt you to restart Unity so it can load into the new input system. So once you're done installing, you can come back to this video and continue following along. Alright, so once you have your input system completely installed, we can now get into making this character controller compatible with the new input system. Here I have a character controller script. It doesn't have the jump function, but it lets you move up and down, so it's like kind of a freeform controller. And what we're going to do is change all this logic here into something that is new input system friendly. So before we really get into that, first we need to create a controls folder, which I already have pre-made, and in here we're going to create a new input actions asset, and we can call this our player controls. Now if we hit edit asset, it'll open up a window that has these three sections: action maps, actions, and properties. So what we're going to want to do is make an action map, and I'm going to call this action map the keyboard. And in our actions, we're going to create all the buttons that we need for our character controller to work. So in here, I need something to modify our Y movement vector to make us go up and down. And to do that, under actions here, we hit the plus sign, and I'm going to call this up down, and this will pass through a vector axis here, axis. Alright, so it's going to pass in an axis, which is basically like a one-dimensional vector. So we can delete that blue binding there, and now hit on the plus sign. It should see add 1D axis composite, and it's basically up and down. And I'm just going to call this up down vec. And for negative, I want it to be left shift, and for positive, I want it to be space. There. Now for I want to make our player move input, so our WASD keys with the new input system. Now in order to do that, we're going to create another action. We can call this our move keys, and this time it will be a value of vector 2, and we can get rid of this here. We don't need that, and we hit the plus sign, and we do add 2D vector composite, and I call this the move vector. And you can assign all these buttons according to how you want your player to move. So I'm going to use WASD, so to do that, just go to path, listen, and W for up, and so on. Alright, so now I have a way to move up and down and to go all around. Now I want my player to be able to look around. So I'm going to make this in the input system, new input system. So to put in mouse deltas in the input system, it's very easy. You just do actions and hit the add action button, and we can call this mouse delta, and this will be a value of vector 2, and we're going to put in mouse and then delta. There, and this will return a vector 2 of our mouse's change in position. And there you go. This is what we need for our character controller to work. Now what we're going to do is we can get rid of all of our old input system code, and we can now replace it with our new input system code. So before we do that, you're going to have to save your asset, which I already did here, and on your player controls asset, you're going to tick generate C# class, and this will generate a class for us to use to subscribe all of our functions to the input action methods. So like for example, whenever I press space, I can subscribe the look method to run every time you press space. And in order to do that, what we're going to do is private, here, we're going to create a private variable and call this our player controls, and call this our controls. And in our start method, we're going to initialize it. So controls equals new player controls, and once we create an instance of it, we have to enable it. Now we can start subscribing methods. I'm not really going to subscribe the space to the look function. No, we're not going to do that. Alright, so now to assign methods, so we want to assign these variables here. And to do that, I want it to be assigned every time we perform our move keys action. And in order to do that, we do controls dot keyboard dot move keys dot performed plus equals, and after the plus equals, we're going to create a variable here, and it is of callback context. And what that is, it gives us info based on what's happening with the action callback. And since we are having this action type as value in vector2, we can use the callback context to read the vector2 that is being passed through. So we do plus equals ctx as for short for context, and then a lambda expression to assign a function. And now in here we can assign our player move input. So player move input equals a new vector3, and it's going to be ctx dot read value vector2 dot x, and here we're just going to leave it as player move input dot y, because it will be assigned, the player move input dot y will be assigned by the up down action here, and ctx dot read value vector2 dot y. There. Now to assign our player move input dot y, we do controls dot keyboard dot, where is it, up down dot performed plus equals, and we're also going to need this context so we can get the float value that is being passed through. And we assign this player move input equals new vector3, and we can just keep these as default. So player move input dot x and z, and for our y we do ctx dot read value and then float. There. And now for our deltas, we can just assign this to our mouse move input. So controls dot keyboard dot mouse delta, I know it's not really part of the keyboard, but whatever, plus equals ctx, since we will be reading a vector2, and we do mouse move input equals ctx dot read value vector2. There. Now if we serialize these fields, so I'm just going to make these public temporarily, save, there you go, and we go back into Unity, and we hit play. You'll notice you can see our mouse move input is changing as we move our mouse, and whenever we press W, D, you can see our XZ change. If we press space, left shift, it all changes. Now you can see that it's kind of staying on our player move input, and that's because we need to subscribe a method for when we set it to canceled, or whenever we stop pressing it. So we do controls.keyboard.movekeys.canceled plus equals ctx, a lambda expression, and we just do the same thing for reading. And same for the up down. There you go. And now if we hit play, you can notice that it now resets to its default every time we stop pressing the button, so it doesn't stay. Oh yeah, we also have to do it for our mouse move input. So we can do that again for our mouse move input real quick. Got canceled. And there you go. That is how we set up the input. It's a bit messy, but it can be easily be cleaned. So just collapse all of these. and kind of group them together, and there you go. Okay, so now if I just get rid of this capsule and add in a character controller, which is what this script uses, just put it above there, clean it up, there you go, hit save and play. You may notice now the mouse goes crazy and it looks like it's snapping, and that's because the mouse delta is actually normalized. As you can see by the mouse move input, you can see it you can see like -1, -2, and all that. So to fix that, when we go back into our code in our look function, all we have to do is first we're gonna create another vector2 and call this let's just call this the non-normalized delta, and it's gonna be the mouse move input multiplying it by 0.5f and then by 0.1f. So the reason why we do this is because it's kind of explained better in a Unity forum post that was from somebody at Unity Technologies. So I'll put it on screen right now so you can quickly read it and understand it, and yeah. Alright, so now that we have the non-normalized delta here, we can now multiply it. Get rid of this normalized delta dot y and non-normalized delta dot x. Replace those two, and now if we go back into Unity and we hit play, it should be fixed. There you go, now it's smooth. And as you can see, if I hit space, I go up, I press shift, I go down, and this just demonstrates that this input system works very well. It is perfect and easy to work with, as you can name your own binds, which I like a lot, so you know what they are. And yeah, this is all I have for this video, and I'll see you in the next tutorial series or tutorial video. Goodbye.